Sitting next to a legend here today. He doesn't think so, but his shirt says otherwise. All right. Yeah, K&B Effects, co-founder. That was back in the day. You left that, started your own from Assault on Precinct 13. You took the
Well, that was my production company.
Yep.
And then I had a company called Creature Core, which was my effects company. Since then, I've sold that company. That company's now a Halloween mask company portion,
okay.
so that name went away. So right now it's Robert Kurtzman Makeup Effects.
Robert Kurtzman Makeup Effects.
Yeah.
Okay.
That we formed when we went to do the Haunting of Hill House in Atlanta. So we're based out of Atlanta.
Yeah.
Now,
Haunting of Hill House fans?
So.
Yeah. Sweet. I've always thought, because like makeup artists, I find effects guys, they often want to, you know, you're always creating behind the scenes, but then there's something about wanting to like direct, you know, because you can do it all kind of thing, and you've seen it all. So like, what made you want to kind of branch off and start directing stuff and doing your own thing?
Well, I always wanted to direct because I was a huge John Carpenter fan, and I was like always, you know, I followed directors a lot.
Yeah.
Same as effects guys growing up, like reading Famous Monsters and Fangoria and stuff, and then I would also, you know, read everything I could about the directors. And started following different directors, and I'd go see the movies just because they were involved with it, you know.
Okay.
But, you know, Rude Awakening, I didn't realize, you know, wanting to be a director is one thing. Getting to Hollywood and working on a set and realizing how the process works and how the departments work together.
Yeah.
I knew nothing when I first started.
Okay.
You know, so
You gotta start somewhere.
So yeah, so you know, getting in the effects business actually was like, it was able to teach me like how a set works and how the departments interact and what the director does and how he interacts with actors and the departments. And so luckily that was my training ground. But over the years I started, you know, having second unit chores where I was directing effects sequences and storyboarding them, and that kind of just led to wanting to do a feature.
Was that not, and did that become kind of too much too? Because when you're directing and when you're obviously letting the makeup guys and effects guys that you've hired do your own stuff, but then do you still want to be like, you know,
no, you got so much going on with the directing that you don't really, you know, and plus it's your team that you hire on.
So you trust
know, I'm involved with the pre-production, with like the design phase and the working out how the effects are going to play and how I'm storyboarding them and laying them out, and then I let the guys take over on the set.
Right on. We were talking about kind of people that you said, John Carpenter.
That was very cool because, you know, I was a kid, you know, in high school especially, I had posters all over my room, you know, Assault on Precinct 13. And you know, Halloween and everything, The Fog, and then, you know, the model kits, you know, Auroras and all the stuff. You know, I was literally a monster kid growing up.
You're Ray, Harryhausen fan? And
Harryhausen fan, yeah.
Harryhausen fan, stop motion? Anyway,
Jason in the Yard?
All of it, and so, you know, I had grown up, you know the group, you know that era of kids. We all grew up watching the same movies. No matter any of the effects guys you talk to, they have kind of similar backgrounds. They watched late night horror host shows.
I wasn't playing sports. I was doing makeup and sculpting.
I was doing art or playing with Legos or watching horror movies in the basement with a bowl of chips and a Coke, you know.
Hell yeah.
And back before they actually had, you know, even cable TV, it was UHF and the rotary box.
Don't age yourself.
No, but it's true. You know, and you'd have to circle everything in the TV guide just to watch a monster movie at the end of the week on a Friday night. So, but you know, the monster kids were that era. The people who grew up in the '70s, really. We all kind of gravitated toward that business because of the magazines that were out, and everybody realized it was an industry at the time. And we're like, oh man, you can make monsters and make a living doing this, you know. And
those old Fangoras and stuff, they were also like there was something different. I mean, I love Remorque, I love everything from it. Like, you know, new horror is obviously totally different, but there was something about, I think back in the day, like in Fangoria and stuff, like they did a lot of interviews with the makeup artists.
Yes.
There's a lot of like how-to stuff, and the pages
Yeah, they had
were
Warzone. They had
Yeah.
they had the makeup effects lab portion of that,
which
it
was
about
so
making-
intriguing.
yeah.
I remember reading parts just like over and
Yeah.
over and over, right? Like,
Yep.
kids are with
I
their baseball
collected 'em.
cards, and I'm like, just
Oh
with
no,
my
I
Fangos,
collected.
like,
I collected them. I was like a real geek. I had them in plastic sleeves. I didn't let anybody touch them. And if they bent them, I would have a shit fit. And I started collecting when I was in grade school, and I went to a Catholic school. So I would always the nuns would always bust me and take my magazines away. I usually had a duffel bag, and I'd have them all in there. And then I'd sneak them out. And,
That's a real Catholic school with nuns.
He's
not
looking
like
at
over
them
here.
while, and they'd come over and give me that magazine. What is this smut? Shit. And I'd have to go beg for the magazines back at the end of the day. They'd take them away. So
You're like, that's how I know how to do what I want to do.
yeah. My dad was he was always freaking out because I kept asking for money to go to the Cineplex and watch the movies over and over again.
Yeah.
He's like, you just saw this movie last week. Yeah, but I got to see it again.
So what's the movie you've
Kinda
probably
watching-
seen more? What have you seen more than when you were a kid? What movie did you watch over and over?
Oh, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Raiders of the
Probably
Lost
saw it
Ark.
9 times in the first 2 weeks.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And then The Thing. That was another one. The Thing was...
Thing fans in
yeah,
here?
so...
Right?
Other than that, my parents would take us to see, they were like, we're going to go see the Apple Dumpling Gang at the, or some Disney thing, And we kept wanting to go see the crazier stuff. Like, I was really excited when they took us to the drive-in to see Dirty Harry,
Hell
So
yeah.
it was like...
Do you know Rob Pena? You met him?
I've met
before?
him,
Yeah.
but he's kind of fell off the radar.
Yeah, totally.
So I don't know
Totally.
what he's doing.
I mean, The Thing was just, for me too, like just
It's
so
the perfect film. It's
memorable.
such a
It is the
perfect
perfect
film.
film. I've heard a
So,
few effects artists say that, actually. You're not the first one. I had a question about, because you worked on you've worked on so much shit. We wouldn't even have enough time. Like over 400 more probably now. Like, so many things, TV, film. You worked on, obviously, things like Evil Dead and like these humongous franchises. A lot of things that you worked on, to me, interested me, especially because you worked on like a lot of isolated kind of sets that seem like in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Yeah, those are the most enjoyable ones. where
Okay,
it's like
so
the family unit.
That's my question is like, what was the most like isolated kind of crazy out there set that you worked
Even
on?
recently, there's been some fun ones.
Okay.
Evil Dead 2, obviously.
Yep.
It was like 3 months, and that kind of unheard of. A $3.5 million movie that you have 3 months to
That you
shoot.
have 3 months to shoot,
Now
yes.
that would be shoot it in 15 days.
Yeah, right. Yeah, 8 days.
So it's like stupid, but we were basically isolated in a small town in North Carolina, and we all lived together basically.
Yeah.
Everybody had a house that they rented. Like the Grips had their own house, the effects guys had their own house.
When you say house, do you mean like
They
cabin
rented
in
a farmhouse for us
Okay.
that was like, we called it the Texas Chainsaw House, and it was kind of sat out back, and up this long road, and it was me and Mark Shostrom
Yeah.
and Howard and Greg and who else was there? Mike Tursick.
Mr. Berger, you're good friends.
Yeah,
you're good
yeah.
buddies with him, right?
Yeah, and so we all stayed in the house together, and it became on the weekends the rest of the crew would come over and they'd play music and everybody would get drunk and hang out.
I was gonna say,
you
is
know?
that
It's
all you
like,
did?
yeah.
Play music?
Yeah, so
We were just talking to the TC.
everybody get high and smoke and
The
whatever.
weed,
But,
the weed
yeah,
that goes through the film industry.
So,
I mean, it's legal now in
yeah.
some places, though, right?
But it was a tight. It wasn't a big crew on the. It was maybe 50 people if you're lucky. And so, but you spend 3 months with them.
Yeah.
And it's like a little family unit. And we did that on an Army of Darkness
Yep.
as well. Although we shot in LA, and then a big portion, like 6 weeks of that was shot up in the desert.
So
with
it's
the
still
castle
another
set.
isolated set.
And we
right?
were all
Like-
staying at one hotel. And we had to get them to open, because we were on nights, we had to get them to open the hotel for morning drinks. Like we needed the bar open at 6 a.m.
We're
when we
filming in
got
a
off
desert.
work.
We're dehydrated.
Yeah.
We need the booze.
So-
What's it like filming in a fucking desert? Like, that's to me.
Well,
it's
that was great. I mean, it was hot, but it wasn't that hot.
That was great. Okay.
I've shot in Morocco. We did a movie called Cherry with Tom Holland and
Okay.
the Russo Brothers.
Yeah.
And we went to Morocco luckily it was only 3 weeks or so, 3.5 weeks.
Never again.
Yeah.
Because I'm always like a desert to me is like that's.
We were 6 miles from the Sahara.
Yeah.
It sucked.
So the issue there was that we start in the morning and you're basically dressed for winter.
Yeah.
And by 10 o'clock in the morning, it's like 60, 70 degrees, and then it gets warm and you're stripping down, then you got to put it back on.
Yeah.
But it was the dirt that was just
Okay.
because we had helicopters and jeeps and everything. So every time the helicopter land, you're getting hit with a wave of dust, and you go back and shower, and it's like
You just bag up all the makeup
nasty
stuff
shit.
and like just like put cover.
Well, luckily
like,
it was all like guys covered in blood and body parts and
So it didn't
legs
really
blown
matter.
off and stuff like that. But, it was all the combat stuff we did.
So then we're on Evil Dead. Give me one crazy memory from that franchise that if you can. I mean, I'm sure you have a lot, but what's something that really stuck out?
Oh, we were really stupid kids back then.
So
Yeah,
are
we
you.
were.
Tell us.
Well, the best part is actually it's on the DVD. You see some of the behind the scenes
Yep.
videos that we shot for fun, like
Yep.
Reanimator
The
Baby
Reanimator Baby, yeah.
and stuff, and
Yeah.
just stupid shit.
So
but that was
funny.
probably the most fun because in between stuff we would just go shoot these stupid little movies with the video camera,
Yeah.
the old VHS cameras.
What's the one where
And-
somebody put the wig on?
Oh, I put the wig on, and I do
Yeah.
the scene with Bruce
Yeah.
where he's sleeping and I'm trying to get that was just stupid shit. I don't know what we were.
What's it like
So,
working with him?
but-
Is he like?
Oh, Bruce is great. I
Yeah,
love working
I hear
with
that
him.
he's just an absolute gem. Like,
We just did that movie Black Friday
Black
with him
Friday.
a few years ago.
Yeah,
And-
loves the makeup process and
Sawa.
Devin Sawa.
Yeah, Devin was in
Is
it.
he here?
Yeah, he was
Fuck.
just in the room before we
Okay.
came in.
Yeah.
Those two movies were just a blast to do, and
Yeah.
Sam's just so energetic
I was gonna
as a
ask about Sam.
filmmaker. Especially back then.
Yeah.
Now he's got big toys to play with and stuff.
a little
back
different
then,
these days,
it was all
uh,
like toys that were pulled out of his ass. Like
Yeah.
they were building the camera rigs on 2x4s and
Yeah.
stuff.
But
It
I mean,
was
that's
just,
like
really cool.
There's something to be said about now. Like now, unfortunately, when people say indie films, it has this weird like it's like not enough money, not enough whatever, not
Right.
But all the
Those are
films
the
that we all
best.
love, right? That was what
they're,
it is.
They're
That's
the
what they
best,
were.
and they're the ones that stand the test of time too.
They are.
It's like
They're the cult classics.
I've done a lot of films with Don Coscarelli.
Yeah.
My first film was Phantasm 2, and
Phantasm. Phantasm.
and then Don. Since then, Bubba Hotep we'd done
Yep.
with him, and then I did John Dies at the End, and they're
Yep.
these quirky little movies. They don't have a lot of money,
Yeah.
but they're actually special. They're very
awesome.
special movies.
They're so good.
We did a movie, very isolated thing. Adam Marcus, who directed Jason Goes to Hell, did his little teeny movie called Secret Santa. And we shot in Big Bear, California. He said, hey, we're doing this movie. There's not a lot of money, basically none. But we're putting a crew together, and it's an 11-day shoot. And we shot pretty much in one house and around the house in the middle of winter time.
Oh.
And it was just this quirky, weird little movie that turned out great. And we just spent 11 days all camped out at 3 houses that were rented right around each other. And so the crew basically lived together for
So it's almost like back
11 days.
kind of like how you were doing it before, right?
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
was so refreshing to do it that way.
I think there's
again.
something
It was
about that
like-
camaraderie too,
yeah.
right? It's like versus just like everybody showing up from different trailers,
Right.
never even, and that's why everyone's like, oh, indie films are, there's bad communication, there's this and that. I'm like, that fucking happens.
It depends.
It
happens on big
happen
movies.
everywhere. It
It's
happens on
like-
big movies. You don't meet this person until the blood gag or something. They're like,
Right.
you're not putting that on my face.
Right.
It's like,
yeah, yeah.
what? Like,
yeah, I've had those actors before.
so I know,
It's like-
and so it brings me to my next question. You've done makeup for so many humongous actors. You know how important it is when they're sitting in your chair because like you're an application guy, right? That's like your jam. So how important it is to almost like psychologically, be kind,
yeah.
anything they need, tell them it's all good.
Yeah.
Like, have you had anybody in your chair that just fucking hated it? Don't worry, it's only being filmed by. Or like, you
It's
know what I mean?
weird.
Like not hated, but like even was just like,
Well,
like,
normally
the process
it's
was
not all of
huge,
them,
or-
but a lot of comedians have their process is a little weird. But so Mike Myers hated.
Okay.
He'd write the characters for himself. I'm going to play Fat Bastard.
Right.
And then he'd get in the chair and be a total dick because he hated it.
Because he wasn't about it.
Yeah, and I'm like, you're paying yourself $20 million.
You wrote the part.
It. So like, but then then there's guys like Arnold.
Yeah.
Who
just love it.
Just
are about it.
Puts up with it, and he's very cool.
Tell them who pushed out on the face cast.
Oh, Steven Seagal. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Not so tough now, are you, David Seagal?
No, he totally freaked out.
Get me out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a claustrophobic. Has anybody here been life cast, like their face? No, like it's It's not for everybody.
No, thank God we can cyber scan now. This is great.
This is the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, depending on what movie you're working on.
Yeah. But I mean, if you ever have an issue, that's the way to do it. But I've had that issue too before because, Steven Seagal freaked out.
That's so funny to me.
And we were doing this movie that he was directing called On Hollow Ground or something.
God.
And it's a horrible movie.
Yeah.
And,
Fuck.
I'll tell you this story.
Right?
He's just a weird dude.
I don't even have that in my notes. I remember that movie.
He also came in. He had a little gun in his belt and shit. And he had a security guy with him and shit. And so he comes in and we had to make this dummy. There's a point where they fall under the ice and they're fighting.
Okay.
And
I haven't seen
he's
the movie.
under. I know he's under the ice and then he breaks out. Right. So
okay.
I'm assuming like he's going to break out. He's doing it with his fist through the ice.
Yeah.
And so I said, so your hands are going to be in this position, and we need this in your face because we're going to launch this dummy out.
Yeah.
Whatever. And he goes, no, my hands would be like this. I went, oh, so you want to break your fingers?
Yeah, like
going through the ice. But he was like, no, I'm kung fu dude. So it's like, so anyway.
But wasn't he not? Didn't we find out that Steven Seagal's whole life is kind of a lie?
Yeah, it's all bullshit.
It was all bullshit.
Because he was like talking about
that?
like there's stories about him and his special forces and stuff.
Yeah.
And he figured that the special forces guys are in tight, weird spaces, and stuff. And he's claustrophobic, so it's like it was weird. But
oh my God.
And the other time was like Jay Muse. See, Jay was supposed to play the Bratzi in Jay and Silent Yoga Hosers.
Yeah.
And so we would have known this if we had done a traditional life cast on him, but we did a cyber scan.
Oh, you did do that? Oh.
So
what year did they start doing that?
It's been a while. It's been
around for a bit. I think camera gets everything a bit later.
Before 3D printing, it was the milling.
Yeah.
It was milling. But
yeah.
So we get on set to do this makeup on Jay, and we start to put him in, and he starts freaking out just with getting the rubber on his face.
What, really?
So
just a cowl.
Yeah, just the cowl. He was freaking out.
Just the cowl. Yeah.
So then we had to scan Kevin, and Kevin played the part,
Okay.
and we had to come back and shoot a few weeks later because I had to redo the whole makeup on him. So we tried to get him calm enough to shoot for 6 hours, and it didn't happen. So
were you because you worked on From Beyond?
Mm-hmm.
That was like earlier. That was definitely
85, 86.
So one of your
right
kind of
before Evil Dead.
earlier things, right? Did you? I love that fucking movie. Did you work on like Dr. Pretorius's makeup?
Yeah, I did a bunch of. Well, I worked on the creature, the big creature at the end.
Yeah.
With Mark, but I was in charge of the I call him Mr. Blister. But
Blister.
Pretorius's melty, blobby look.
That makeup to me was like
and that was a pain in the ass.
Pain in the ass.
Because the body was actually a urethane, self-skinning urethane foam.
Okay.
It was fairly heavy.
Okay.
It went all the way down to below his one knee. And it had a handle inside that he had to hold to keep it up. And then once it went on, then all the foam pieces blended onto that piece. And he was in that for like 16 hours. And at one point, his entire one side of his body was like circulation was done.
Yeah.
And he was like freaking out.
How long was that application too?
Oh, it took us probably 3 or 4 hours.
Okay.
I mean, nowadays you'd have different materials.
It's different. It's all different.
So, but back then it was like, it was the same as Henrietta back then.
Yeah.
Mark didn't have a walk-in oven.
Yeah.
And so.
Put it in the kitchen.
Yeah, but it was a full body Henrietta suit. So he did it out of back in the day on Invaders from Mars.
Great film.
Rick Lazzarini came up with this idea to use SC89 urethane
Okay.
spray
Okay.
in the mold, and then you pour in a soft foam behind it,
Yeah.
and we made the drones out of Invaders from Mars. The drone skins
Yep.
were all made out of that.
Yeah.
The problem was that injecting them was
Right.
you couldn't get the foam in quick enough. So he came up
Thing
with
with
this
foam,
thing
isn't it?
called an octo injector, and it was a 5-gallon bucket with about 50 garden hoses coming off of it, and it would go to plugs on the side of the mold, because the molds are not easily filled because
Yeah.
they're convoluted.
They're all over, yeah.
So we would pour up the soft foam,
Yeah.
dump it in the thing, slap the lid on, and then take an air nozzle and a compressor and blow that into the mold. And then it would shoot all that foam into the mold, and then it would swell up inside and overflow. And then the hoses were throwaway. So you go through 10, 15 garden hoses in a week, you know.
Foam is
But-
such a fucking particular thing, to the point that I like even here, like there's a lot of effects artists I work with, they have never even mixed foam latex in their lives. Like it's silicone. I mean, obviously we live in the world of silicone these days.
Well, and back then, too, the polyfoam, the urethanes were cyanide blown.
Super dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and you would stomp out those skins.
Yeah.
You'd put cardboard over the skins, and the crew would walk over them all day long just to stomp out the cyanide.
shit.
So
Jesus
now it's all waterborne.
With all the protection,
Yeah.
all the gas
Yeah.
masks and everything, right?
Yeah.
Respirators.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah.
You heard of one of those, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, Henrietta was made that way.
Yeah.
It was a polyfoam suit, but it didn't have there was no spandex zipper undersuit. Mark wanted to put that in afterwards, so afterwards we were gluing in spandex
glued
into
it?
it. Yeah. Well, if you notice in the movie when he's flying around on the wire and his ass is all opened
Yeah.
up and torn,
Yeah.
that's because the suit's
suit.
taking a beating. It's just falling apart.
Because if that's not on the
Well-
seams, right? Like the power mesh.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
It,
it's just-
it
and
wouldn't
once
have been
it-
power mesh back then. It would have been just spandex,
Yeah.
right? But
Well, it was he used the wrap that you use on a broken arm or whatever, sprained arm.
okay.
He had
Oh
these
my
rolls
God,
of that.
shit.
We were gluing in. It was so
fuck.
lame, but
memories.
when he came up out of the first time he came up, floats up out of the trap door on the floor, Evil Dead 2.
Yeah.
And he's he comes
Yeah.
up through. First time, his belly catches on the side of the door there, and it just rips
Rip
the whole
the whole
suit
thing.
right in half. And so we had to go back, fix it,
I've never heard
clean
that
it up.
story.
Yeah,
Patch it all.
Never
So-
heard that story before.
it might even be on one of the behind the scenes videos. They might even have it on one of the collector editions.
So you worked on, I
So-
mean, you worked on, like, makeup is only, I think when people think makeup effects, they're like, oh, like, you did this scary makeup. But I'm like, often for effects artists, it means huge builds, like puppets,
Yeah.
fucking set
Yeah.
deck stuff,
Yeah.
like Dream Warriors, for instance,
Yeah.
right? Like all, like the big Freddy fucking heads and all that shit. What's the biggest, like, craziest build that you've done that's like that, that's not like makeup, that's like a fucking,
like a creature.
like a
or
creature,
something.
yeah. Or most memorable one.
Well, like the Violator and Spawn, the big,
Okay.
because it was all hydraulic and
Okay.
had a computer set up that would translate small movements from the puppeteers
Yeah.
to the big movements of
How
the
many
creature.
people puppeteered that thing?
Oh, probably 4 or 5.
Holy shit.
What about the
But-
faculty?
Yeah, and then that as
Faculty
well,
Monster?
the Faculty Monster is the other
That
one.
monster's
That was like the
amazing.
last one that we did before everything started going full
Who sculpted
CGI.
the fucking face of that thing? I love
I
that
don't
monster.
remember.
It's so good.
I don't remember. It's like so many people sculpting on that.
Is
like,
it? It's
we
too
had
many
the
people,
body,
right?
the tentacles.
Yeah. It's
and-
humongous. It's
Yeah, so-
humongous, and they shoot it like they mix it with CG, obviously, but you do get those practical shots when it gets stuck in the
Right, the bleacher
in
one
the
and-
bleachers
yeah.
or whatever, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
I can see all the
Yeah.
shadows and the lines, and it looks so. Are
Yeah.
you a fan of? I mean. You know, a lot of people, I think, when they don't know what they're talking about, they're like, oh, I really like practical. I hate CG. And I'm like, I don't
Half the
think.
time they don't know it's
They
CG.
don't know.
Because the best CG is when it augments something.
It augments it,
Yeah,
right?
and
So.
and to be honest, like, you know, there's diehard people who are like, oh, they didn't do CG squibs or they didn't do
Yeah.
practical squibs. I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, kind of kind of not worth doing anymore.
Not worth doing it.
It's a
huge
safety
amount of
issue.
work. Yeah.
You know, and there's
Resets,
liabilities,
resets.
resets.
I get excited when it's like
yeah.
on an indie film
Yeah.
because there's normally indie films that stuff happens now
Yeah.
too, and they get like kind of a little effects guy that's just lives down the road or whatever,
Right.
and then you see these scripts going on. I'm like, I don't get to see that on the
Yeah,
bigger shit.
yeah.
Like it's on the little stuff.
I mean, I still
right?
love doing blood
Scary.
gags.
When they work.
Where you blow a guy's face off, but what's great now is, you know, the wound can already be there, and
Yes.
whether it's editing or just a few frames
Yeah.
cleaned up prior to the reveal.
Yeah.
And you can still do a nice blood gag with a silicone
Yeah.
piece. And
I still wait on because
but-
I find like that's I mean everything's been changing, but even like I'm waiting on set. You know, you're waiting to be like, oh, I can see that. I got to get in there with a little bit of glue and tack that down. They're like, we'll fix it in post. We'll
Yeah.
fix it in post. I'm like, everything.
you don't have to worry about your bloodlines showing.
about
hanging
anything
out the back of
showing
their shirt.
anymore.
or
So how
whatever.
different is that for you, having grown up on and working on all those things that we in here love, like the old like 70s, 80s, 90s, like now 2023 or whatever the fuck it is. Like how different is that for you as an effects artist?
Well, it's different, but I also like absorb it. Like when I'm doing a breakdown on a movie now, I'll specify like
Yeah.
it's a prosthetic with digital
Digital
crossover,
layover, yeah.
you know, digital reveal or digital cleanup.
Yeah.
It's just kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, wide. It's like doing a puppet head now. You got all this mechanics and stuff.
Yeah.
And especially something that fits like Abe Sapien
Yeah.
or Shape of Water.
And the gills.
It's so
Yeah.
tight fitting to the actor. There's nowhere to put mechanics. So thank God
Totally.
there's visual effects.
They have to do it.
because they can do the blink and the eye movement and
Yeah.
stuff. It's like.
Del Toro
So,
was kind
yeah.
of one of the first guys for me that I really saw like not overdo it. I
Yeah,
love how he
yeah.
kind of did that with like he would a fly on the wall or something, and you're like, fuck, that looks so good versus just a full layer. I know we were talking about The Boys or whatever, and it's like I think a lot of like the younger generation too. They've fucking seen it all, so they want this super real look. It's like beyond real. We grew up on being like, holy fuck, but then after you watch it 5 times, you're like, okay, I can see the practical,
Right.
on like non-reality to that. Now people need that like stuff in their brain.
Yeah, I think
right?
at one point, after Jurassic Park came out, it was like everything started going digital,
Yeah,
and then there was a backlash, and then it pulled back. Now it's
Yeah.
like a nice crossover, depending on the filmmakers.
It depends on the filmmaker,
Yeah.
totally, right? Like
Yeah.
it's not even the year. It depends
Yeah,
on.
and it's the ones like Guillermo who aren't lazy, who can figure it out ahead of time, like
Yeah.
what he needs that needs to be practical and what needs to be visual effects. And then there's the lazy ones who don't really do their homework, and it's like, oh, I don't know what I want it to be. We'll just figure it out in post.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll come up with the look in post, and it's like whatever.
Figure out the look in
Yeah,
post.
yeah.
That to me, I go, yeah.
Well, they can
do your
change.
work, like,
They
figure
can
it out.
keep changing it all the time,
Yeah.
And it's like, and that's a bad thing too, because production studios can do that now too.
Totally.
They can wait till post and go, I really didn't like Rick Baker's werewolf. Let's throw a CG werewolf in or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Which is
yeah.
like sacrilegious.
No one
but-
said that. I don't think anyone's ever said that before.
No, but it's that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the Weinsteins did that on Cursed.
Totally.
So with Rick, and they had given
Was that
him
the werewolf that gives the finger in that
yeah,
one? Right?
carte blanche, to do the werewolf, and then all they did is torture him through the whole process, and then, and then he quit.
And then he quit. Oh, I didn't know that.
Because Rick brought all the molds to our shop.
Yeah.
Because we had been doing other stuff on
Yeah.
the film with Wes, and
movie's fucking
and so Rick literally comes over with all these pallets of molds and says, "Have fun." Fuck this shit, and he's
Just like him to drop something off, isn't it?
Yeah. So.
I got to quit on this werewolf movie. I've got these other 10 werewolf movies to do.
Yeah.
What was I going to say here? Huge teams. Yeah. So I've got a note actually about Fred Decker on here.
Uh-huh.
You're a Monster Squad fan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was like when you're growing up, like.
No, Monster Squad
guess you were a
came
bit
out
older.
after I was in the business
So
already.
okay. So
Yeah.
what did you think of like
Howard,
the comedy
Howard
mix
worked
with
on
that?
Monster Squad.
Yeah.
And I actually did the.
I forget how young you guys are.
I did the tour, the press tour where I had to apply the Frankenstein makeup and
okay.
on a double. It wasn't on the guy from from Manhunter.
Yeah.
What's his name? anyway.
I can't fucking.
The bad guy or the
Yeah.
killer in Manhunter.
Yeah.
He played the Frankenstein. So they had a double for him, and then they would do like a press tour thing and a thing at the Hard Rock Cafe or whatever.
Okay.
And this is after the movie's just coming out, and Stan didn't want, he was like, my guys are busy, find someone to go do these makeups. So I
Okay.
got to, go do that stuff.
Was you. That's cool.
But I didn't work on the actual film. And I knew Fred because I worked on Night of the Creeps.
Night of the Creeps.
I was one of
Night
the
of the Creeps.
beta zombies.
Right? Holy shit! Thrill me.
Yep. So I'm like this college kid in the movie. We all played in it.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
the makeup guys got to be the zombies because they didn't have time to find actors for us
Is
because
that why?
we needed to start prep.
Oh,
So Dave
shit.
Miller said, well, why don't we all just play the characters? We'll play the
Okay.
frat guys.
Okay,
So,
I knew that you did
yeah.
that. I didn't know it was like.
Yeah,
I didn't know it
Dave's
was
in it.
everybody.
Earl Ellis is in it. Howard's in
shit.
it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So we're all,
Did you guys make because the slugs and the fucking scurrying
Yeah.
along the ground and that? I'm like, that's so
Yeah,
nifty.
Ted Ray and there was a couple.
Was that all
mechanical
back? Was
guys
that
in
all
it.
like backwards footage for those things?
No,
like,
no,
Because
they-
the slugs, you guys remember how fast the
Yeah.
slugs scurry along that? It's like-
It's a lot of old tricks. The
Old tricks.
monofilament, man, and
Monofil.
and they were hot melt vinyl back in the day when
Hot
they
melt
you remember
vinyl.
those things? They were called creepy crawlies.
Creepy
Yeah.
crawlies.
When you were a kid.
Yeah.
Well, you guys probably used the gelatin ones, but prior to that, they were made out of what's called hot melt vinyl. The most toxic shit on the planet, and everybody's using it all the kids are using it on their back porch. Like I had that thing, I was like stinking up the whole house with that
Mine
shit.
was in the kitchen.
Yeah, and
Well, I'm glad
and
you're still with us.
I never knew it was toxic until I got to LA and I started working with it.
Yeah.
Because on the Hidden we made the little creature out
Yeah.
of that at Kevin's so they started pouring it up one day in the studio and I went, what is? I know that smell. I know that smell.
I don't think I've worked
and
with that. Like,
it's
I don't think I've
horrible.
ever-
It's horrible.
Yeah, but it smells good because it's my childhood.
Yeah, well, it reminds me. But I
This is
went.
like gasoline
I know that
too,
smell.
though. It's not good for you.
And
but-
it's like I'm sniffing napalm, but no,
Right.
I
glue bag.
yeah, exactly.
whatever.
But then I went, oh my god, that smell. That's hot. That's creepy crawlers. And then that's when you had to really wrap up, and you boil it like so.
Yeah.
It was very easy for it to backsplash and burn the shit out of you. But those were made out of hot melt vinyl, which is what they make like the worms out of for
Yeah.
fishing and stuff back in the day. So
Because they looked like that was a good
Yeah.
effect. They look great.
and then they built this little offset cam, with a little race car
Shut up.
motor
underneath
inside. Yeah, they had a little race car, and then when that went, they would charge it with a battery, and then that would the motor would go and it would do this cam thing where it wiggled it, and then they put it on a string and we pulled it across the floor and it would go, yeah. So
Looks so good. Looks so good. Okay, I am going to bring up Wishmaster. Wishmaster fans? Yeah? All right. I was expecting more than that, but okay. I really like that franchise, especially because I'm a little bit younger than you, I think. So kind of growing up, not like 90s horror was obviously like part of my shtick too. Scream fan, all those
Right.
things. Where'd you get the idea for? Because Genie, we can talk about, fucking Three Wishes, Magic Lamp, obviously that was like a huge take on that, but the demonology behind it too, and like it was so creepy.
Yeah,
the
well,
makeup was amazing. Like
Peter Atkins wrote it. He was a
Yeah.
Hellraiser alumni who started out his career in theater with Clive Barker
Clive, yeah.
and Doug Bradley. They had
Yeah.
a theater troupe in London. Anyway, reminder, Pete. So that was an open assignment, directing assignment. So.
was Savini? Did he recommend you for that? Or was that
No, it was
okay,
actually
sorry.
Sam Raimi.
Sam, sorry.
I had just finished The Demolitionist. I had
Yes.
Dusk Till Dawn out
Yeah.
as a producer.
Dusk Till
and
Dawn,
producer.
right? Fucking right.
And I was just basically, it was an open assignment, so there was a lot of directors, trying to get the gig, and I didn't think I'd get it. I went in and I did one meeting, and then one meeting turned into 5 callbacks, and each time I would go in, I had, I'm a visual guy, so I went in with visuals, and Pete and me are kindred spirits. We grew up on the same movies. And stuff, so that was a good thing. Pierre David was the producer on it. He produced all the early Cronenberg movies, like Scanners and...
Yeah, like they were big like that. Those movies were big. Like people don't even realize that, right? They're like, oh, it's just this kind of like 90s thing on its own. I'm like, no, there was a huge
and
group of dudes working on that.
Pierre David is Canadian.
Yep.
And so, and I knew who he was. I knew, who Pete was and everything. But I just went in and did my take on the movie, And they were looking for someone like me to do it because there was so many effects in it.
There's tons. The kills, everything is like, it's intense.
And that's why Sam recommended me. He's like, they were asking.
Okay.
So, and then because it was going to either be a $3 million movie or a $6 million movie. The difference was, can we get an actor, big name actor, of course, doing a genie movie.
Whatever,
we're not going to get a big name actor. So the next step was to find, it was like, well, let's try to bring in a big horror name, like Sam or John Carpenter or whatever. And I had worked with them all, but so I had the script sent to Wes and said, Wes, would you be interested in coming on board? Obviously for a big paycheck. To exec produce the movie and present it. So that's how that all happened.
That's awesome. And so because like the makeup effects in that were, that was still so much practical stuff. Do you have a favorite gag from that franchise?
I love the statues coming to life sequence, and
so
really the beginning and the end were just so much fun to do because they were just blowout action effects sequences.
Huge, like they are they're action films almost, right? Like I think.
And it was the beginning of visual effects, or at least CGI effects. And we had a couple boutique houses working on it,
but it wasn't over the top. Again, it was kind of that.
They look dated today.
Today they do,
but
still. But that's what I what I like.
There's a couple gags still hold up, like when he blows his head off and stuff that But then there's like when he turns into glass and Kane Hodder and stuff. It's a little bit whatever, but still. But I tried to. There was a lot more visuals in the script at that time because Pete had written it where it was almost like, in Beetlejuice, like where the statues all come to life and stuff, and that's what it was written as.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
And I was like, that's not interesting to me. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do CGI. So I had Pete rewrite it so that the statues were things we could produce as costumes.
No shit.
And then it became the whole, designing the art, his house full of art, that would come to life, and like snakes and just different things. And that's it. Kind of changed after that, so that we could do more practical effects.
Love it.
So,
we were just talking outside briefly about the Stephen King. Like this, what is it called? Dollar Baby.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, the Stephen King. Like, can you explain that just so these people know what you're talking about? Like that sounds amazing.
Stephen King has a program where young filmmakers can option one of his scripts for $1, but you're not allowed to make money off your final product, but you can use it and take it to film festivals, use it as a calling card. Frank Darabont did that, who did the Shawshank Redemption, but prior to that he had done a Stephen King short. That was the same program. So we just finished one with some students from former and current students from Kent State University and in Ohio. And so we just produced that with them, and it turned out great. So now we're just now starting to take it around to festivals. So.
Teaching the young kids, right? Let's see. Yeah, okay. No, it's not just about the old guys. That's awesome. Got to keep it real, because
it's weird. We did that with Kevin Smith as well. We went to Florida. There's Ringling.
School of Art and Design.
And Kevin did a movie which no one's seen. called
It's an
Kilroy.
NFT
Kilroy
release.
was here,
Ah, okay.
and
okay.
he decided to sell it as an NFT, which is
Okay.
So I've never seen it, but we spent
Not many people have.
we spent 2 years making that down there off and on.
No shit.
They would fly us down. We'd work with the students, shoot
3 or 4 weeks.
shoot a couple weeks, and then go back down, shoot it again, and then Kevin had his heart attack.
Yeah.
So we got postponed for a little while, and then we went back and finished it. It was, but
Which was good because
Yeah.
we were finishing Haunting Hill House.
Yeah, it was
We wouldn't
the
have
same
been able to
time,
finish
right.
his third segment if he hadn't
Yeah.
had the heart attack.
Yeah, it
If
was
he had
just-
the heart attack, we were able to finish the third
Okay.
segment. But, yeah.
Haunting Hill, like did those episodes feature quite a bit. I mean, there's some kind of lully episodes where there's not as much happening,
Right.
but then like how long does that series take? Like
9
we were
months.
on
9
9
months.
months. Yeah, and at that point I had this big trailer. I put everything in it, and we drove it to Atlanta,
yeah.
and and they set us right up on the studio lot.
When he says trailer, he means
It's a
former
race car trailer. That was my workshop, and then they gave us a space down there, so we built everything on the lot, which was great because we could just
that's right
walk
there.
up
Yeah.
to the set, talk
Yeah,
to the
yeah.
director, walk
That's
back.
awesome. Got a problem? Fix it right there.
Exactly.
That's
And
cool.
they could come right to the studio.
Yeah.
And at lunch hour or whatever, and
Yeah.
see what we were doing. So
So
There were ghosts in every episode, so
Yeah.
we had to do ghosts, sometimes up to 8 ghosts a day. just
holy fuck.
to
yeah, because
hide 'em.
Mike wanted hidden ghosts
Oh, it was the
all
BG
the time.
ghosts?
Yeah.
Oh,
So it was
fuck.
like,
Forgot about
and they were all coloring, but
Yes.
but it still was a pain in the ass. You'd have your prosthetic day, and then it's like, here's 5 more.
Add them
it's
on,
like,
right?
yeah.
You don't have to do that though. You got the kids to do all that.
No,
right? No,
you
you're
did
doing
a
it.
lot of them.
That's
Yeah, I
awesome.
did
They're
almost.
Except the end when there was a massive
Yeah,
amount of.
yeah, that was the only day, but I
We
still
brought
had
a lot
to.
of people.
Okay.
I brought him in, but what happened is that me and Greg
Yes.
McDougal, we had to. We had people that not necessarily effects artists,
Yeah.
but they're makeup artists. They
Yeah.
came in and we gave them templates. This is what to do.
Yeah.
But then, an hour or so before we shot them all, we did the once over, and I was like, ooh, we gotta tighten these up.
So I don't know
So,
about in the
but-
States. There's a
but-
rule here now, at least a union rule, whereby if any pros aid transfer is
yeah.
over an inch or an inch and a half
Yeah.
or something, it has to be done by
Right.
a prosthetic artist. If it's less than that, it can be
Done by the straight
makeup.
department.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But
Yeah. Don't quote me on the inch and a half. It may be 3. I
well,
can't remember what it is.
We do
but-
both now, so we've been doing
Yeah, okay.
running both departments on shows. So
No shit.
Well, and
so I don't
the
know how that
last
works, but
day
yeah.
We got kind of talked into, because the people were friends of ours and the director, and we did makeup effects
And hair, which I don't.
and
know.
hair.
It was an easy hair show, fairly easy.
Everybody gets a bob.
except for
and,
the stunt wigs.
Yeah.
She had a
You didn't do that.
a little bit of
She had
gel.
to
You
make
get those
some-
90s spikes,
yeah.
and that's about it.
She had to make some crazy wigs work that.
Stunt wigs.
Yeah,
Damn.
that they
I'm like, you're not doing the
Yeah.
lacing for the wigs, right? Like,
No,
that's
no,
okay.
no.
Christ, yeah.
No, these are just
Wigs and
really
making it look
shitty
like
wigs that
somebody
had to be
else
dressed to.
completely. Yeah,
Oh my
it was
God.
crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Holy shit. I think I did hair once, and then like after one episode, I was like, no.
Well, the only hair you normally do is you're normally dealing with the beards and stuff on characters. But,
Yeah, I can trim
and-
it. I'll trim it up
Yeah.
for you. Sure, I'll pull your ear hairs out so they look okay.
And you're
you know,
usually
but-
laying. I mean, I've laid lace wigs.
Yep. Yeah,
and
beards,
then
like laying beards and
let
stuff like
hair
that, sure.
department style it or
Yeah.
whatever. But yeah, it's not something I like to do, and I don't like to tie or punch hair.
Yeah.
I'll
Okay,
do it,
okay.
but I hate it.
Okay.
So
There's
Hair
some
punching.
there's some really good hair punchers
Yeah.
now. I'm seeing young
We
kids
did
like
some hair punching for, there's a series coming out on Netflix called The Curse.
yeah.
I'm sorry, the Showtime.
yeah, sure.
Okay,
Emma
okay.
Stone and Nathan
Yeah.
Fielder.
Okay, yeah.
And he did some hair punching, and unfortunately, we signed an NDA, and it's
So,
not out
yeah.
until the next weekend, so we can't say, but watch for some of Bob's hair punching
Yeah.
scenes.
Oh, I'm excited then. Those crowns and the.
No,
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 it wasn't
it's something
there.
else.
Has anybody here hair punched an eyebrow before? I don't fucking recommend it.
I used to do that really well.
Did you?
On fake heads.
Okay, all
But
right.
I just don't have the patience for it, and I'd have to get magnifying glass things now to do it.
On Gen V, Colin
So,
Pema made us
yeah.
save all the eyebrows and stuff, and we're like, okay, have fun.
I like having lace ones. I have
Yeah.
Mark Boley, a friend of mine, does hair, and I'll have him do like 4 or 5 different just colors and,
Yeah.
and sizes,
He did
male and
Grandpa
female.
Okay.
Of
he did Grandpa Flicks.
yeah.
Um,
So, and then I just say they're lace.
Yeah.
So I just have them in little cases, and when I need them for a head, I'll just slap them on. So.
There's so many. I mean, there's so many parts that go into every kind of make, like all of that stuff. What is? It's a boring question, maybe. But what is your favorite thing? I kind of mentioned application, but that includes a lot. Like, what's your fucking favorite thing to do? You like blending those edges? You like painting the teeth? What's your?
No, I love all
of
of
it?
that process. I love doing prosthetic
Yeah.
overlapping appliances, whatever.
Do you
I
prefer
love the
creature or trauma
coloring.
then?
I'm not a big gore
Okay.
guy. I mean, I've done a lot of it, but I'm not.
Stuff's getting really gory
you know,
now.
Yeah,
Like, you know.
And, it's just I'm not. I hate blood gags. But
I've said that before. Unless
when
they work, right? When they work,
great.
they're good.
But no matter what, like for instance, we were doing
Oh,
Gerald's game, and we had the degloving on Carla going on, and
can I tell this part?
you can tell if you
I
want.
I just have to step in because he doesn't like to do it, but he and Flanagan always steps back and lets Kurtzman direct.
Yeah.
So there's just
He's a
one
director.
person on a blood pump, and we made sure that it's rigged all the way around Carla's bed, all the way around her back, and up her arm, off camera,
Yeah.
and so on. And then he goes behind the camera, and I'm pumping blood. I hate pumping blood because it scares the shit out of me.
Yeah.
And it's a seltzer bottle,
And, so
charged.
I do it
Charged
once,
too,
it
yeah.
wasn't powerful enough, I do it a second time, and one of the connections blows.
Of course.
It blows right up on Carla, all over the
All
wall,
over the wall,
all over
everywhere.
Carla, all over the room. And Carla, as a pro, she does this, they let her out, she gets up, she walks up, we literally hold sheets up, we change her top to bottom. He's already re-rigging, everybody on set cleans everything up. Within 15 minutes, she was back in the bed, and we did it again.
Yeah.
And he made me do it again.
But those are the moments where you're like, shh.
That's when wardrobe goes. We
You
don't
know?
actually have a second of
They-
that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They had 7.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
We made sure that.
That's. I love when I get when you get asked like, oh, so we're not gonna get blood on that, right? I'm like, have you read
Yeah,
the fucking
yeah,
script?
yeah. Did you read the
Did you
script?
read the
It's like,
script? Yeah.
are you kidding me? What? And then you
Like-
go, I only have, and this is a rental. It's a rental. We
Can
gotta
someone
take
get
it
the
back.
actor a towel
I'm like,
or like a robe
Yeah.
or anything? Open the floor. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Kurtzman here? Yeah, in the front.
What's like the most rewarding effect you've done? Like maybe that was just like a pain in the ass, but like you managed to get it and you look back at it and you're like still really proud of it.
She's asking about those blood gags.
Well, actually, Gerald's game, that was really, I was really excited about how that turned out. God, I don't know, man. There's like so many.
So many.
I love
yeah.
Massey's makeup.
Yeah.
And I think that.
Yeah, I loved
if you
the.
saw a woman walking around naked looking like she did.
No, yeah.
I mean, she
Yeah.
was
That's,
naked,
for,
it's all
um,
prosthetics,
it's prosthetic,
but
but
it
still,
just has
you
a-
die.
She's talking about Dr. Sleep.
Dr. Sleep.
Recreating
The
the
tub.
the woman in the bathtub.
Yeah.
Which was weird because they didn't really hire someone who had the look of the woman
Totally.
from the
It
first
was a lot. It was
film.
big makeup. It was a lot.
Well, the woman in the first film was in The Shining was heavier, and
Was it? Yeah.
2 women.
there was 2 different women in that. If you notice, if
Did
you
I know
research
that?
and you watch the cut, there are 2 different women playing that at 2
Fuck
different
off.
times.
Is there?
Yeah.
And Walking's 2 different.
But
know that.
they hired someone who, when she came to the studio for what was supposed to be a simple cast, and then just doing wrinkle sheets and stuff on her
Yeah.
body with small wounds to recreate that.
Yeah.
She came in and we had her disrobe
Yeah.
and went, we're in trouble because she's got really good body.
Right.
Yeah, because it was nice and tight.
We got to mess
whatever.
this up.
So we had to call the producer and say, hey, we got to cast her butt, her chest, her, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Back.
So we had
Yeah.
to then sculpt saggy butt, which you never see in the movie.
Of course.
And saggy breasts and her little pooch
Yeah,
belly
see
and
that,
all that.
yeah.
So on top of that, so it became extra work. But I'm sorry, I got off the subject there. But
It's okay.
No, that's all. That's
But,
all related. Another question? Oh, come on. In the back. Yeah.
What would you say is the most difficult effect to create? Like, is it like trying to like doing like hair or anything like that? Or
Air, you mean?
like hair. Like
Oh, hair? Well, there's always somebody that does hair really well. You usually hire those people. So.
Or you don't. As,
Yeah. Or if you get stuck doing it, 'cause in the early days, did it ourselves, but it's too. Now it's like you hire. Mechanical effects are always difficult. You got to have a good understanding of how things work. I don't necessarily. I'm not a machinist, but I hire someone who's does that as a machinist. You know.
The kitten on Honeyville House.
Yeah, the hardest thing to do are cats, birds.
Animals, yeah.
Yeah, some
Animals
animals.
difficult.
Some are easy, some aren't.
When you can tell a dog, like sometimes even in movies now, I'm like, that dog doesn't look
Oh, yeah,
like
yeah.
a fucking dog
Yeah.
at all.
So we've done a lot of animals over the years, from buffaloes, from
Yeah.
Dance with Wolves to
Yeah.
City Slickers, and then
The dog in Gerald's Game.
and we did a movie with Devon Sawa called Wild America, where we did all the animal puppets
Yeah.
and mechanical
So much
snakes
work.
and
so
stuff.
much
and
work.
So actually made a snake for a movie with Jean-Claude Van Damme called Hard Target, where he
Yeah.
punches a snake in the face, a rattlesnake.
Sculpting those lines on those snakes. So it was,
Huh?
That rattlesnake that I have on my desk.
No, that's not from that.
Oh, okay.
that would have been too much work. That's too much.
But
Well,
anyway,
that's
thank
all the time
you.
we have. Let's give it up
Thanks,
for Mr.
everybody.
Kurtzman.
Thanks.
Thanks so much.
Thanks. Great job.